Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Welcome to the City Council, Calexico Community Redevelopment Agency, Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority, regular meeting May 21st, 2013. We'll start with our legal report from Ms. Lyons, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Council met in closed session and discussed items A through D. Direction was given. No reportable action was taken. Thank you,
Ms. Lyons. City Clerk, please note all members are in attendance. And we'll start today's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see, led by Mr. Cuevas, please. Thank you, Mr. Cuevas. I need an approval on the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
for the convenience of the members of the audience, I'd like to see if we can move item 7 right before the consent calendar.
Okay, does that moving of that item also include, just for clarification, the public comments and the comments from the council members?
I think we
Relating to this item, I think that would be probably logical.
Sure.
Okay.
Madam
So
Mayor?
you're asking to move item number 7. Mr. Rodriguez, did you want to say something?
Yes, we would like to pull item number 8.
You wanted to pull item number 8?
That's correct.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make that addendum on my motion, and item 7 to be placed right after the announcements, public comments. I think that would be, or would it be after the general comments by council members?
I was thinking after general comments by the public. In other words, we would have general comments by the public, then general comments by the council, and with regard to that item, and then public comments, or if you would like to do that
That's
in the
fine.
reverse.
That's fine.
I'll move to amend that.
Okay, so item number 7 then would be brought forward in consideration of many of the people here in our audience that are coming to listen to that item. That way we can discuss that item, have some type of possible action, and maybe even give a recess to everybody to rest a little, because we may have quite a number of speakers for that one. So once again, our question is if we would like to move item number 7 with the related comments to it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote.
Pues it's not working.
Okay, if you don't mind, if I can have your verbal
Aye.
Aye.
No.
aye. That's 4-1. Okay, so we'll be moving item number 7, and I'll be guiding you along as far as what we're going to be doing. So,
Madam Mayor, one more item for the courtesy of
oh,
members.
I'm sorry. Before that, item number 8, it appears that we will
removed
be tabling that item for next meeting.
We're just going to remove it at this point.
Remove it.
So I need an approval on that removal.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Which,
There it is.
Okay, so that okay, then that does remove item number 8.
One more item, Madam Mayor, for the courtesy of the members of the audience. I think these signs are obstructing the view of the members of the audience. If they could either put them down so that other members can see, I think that would be okay.
I believe I just asked that question, but as courtesy, it would be nice, but I guess that's the
Gracias.
freedom of, yeah. Yes. Ajá.
Si por favor
I'm gonna go over
pueden
everything
bajar
right
los letreros para que los otros puedan ver el negocio que hacemos aquí enfrente.
Sí.
Okay,
Gracias.
we've created a special rules of decorum list here for you for this item. In consideration that our last meeting with this item was a bit difficult, we don't want to have a repeat of the circumstances that we experienced in our last meeting. We do have small children and women, and we don't want to have a disorderly meeting once again. So we've prepared something for you, and I'm going to go over this really quickly. And it's rules of decorum, and it's more pointed towards this one item. So please remember, we do have regular council rules for speaking. This will be just a slightly directed towards this item. Any person who is in violation of any of the following rules will have his or her right to speak terminated and/or will be ejected from the council chambers. Your cooperation with these rules is necessary in order to ensure that the meeting is orderly and that everyone who is in compliance with the rules has an opportunity to speak. Only persons who have submitted a speaker slip prior to the agenda item being called will be allowed to speak. If necessary, a brief recess can be called before the agenda item so that any speaker slips can be submitted. So we are asking that if you want to speak, please go ahead and provide those slips at this time. And please fill them out correctly, because it's really hard for me to know what you want to speak on if you don't fill that out. Only one donation of time will be allowed per speaker. The donation of time and name of person making the donation must be noted on the speaker slip in advance. If you need to correct your speaker slip, please come up and correct it now. A time limit per speaker will be established after all speaker slips have been turned in. All speakers must comply with the established time limit and promptly conclude his or her remarks when the time limit to speak has expired. Each speaker can only speak once on this item. Okay, just want to make sure we clarify that, because in public comments you can make comments about your different items that you're interested in, but on this you will only have one opportunity. Just for clarification, public comment time is for public comments. It's not time for debate, so we don't want that to happen. Authorized speakers must please speak into the microphone and at the podium. The problem with our council chambers is that our speakers are facing to you. They are not facing this way. So when a lot of activity and noise is out there, we cannot hear the speakers, okay? So just wanted to clarify for that to you as well. So just please make sure that you're speaking clearly in the microphone. And also because we have a translator that wants to make sure she picks up your translation. All remarks must be addressed to the City Council as a whole, not to an individual official or the audience. Any person who is in violation of these rules or otherwise out of order will lose their right to speak and/or may be ejected from the City Council chambers if interfering with the orderly conduct of this meeting. In the event of disorderly conduct that interferes with the City Council's ability to conduct the meeting, the mayor may order a recess to reestablish order. Okay, and a couple of extra notes is that I was asked by the fire department officials that everyone must take a seat. No, we don't want anybody standing out here, or I believe Chief, if the media, okay, so no public coming up to stand up to the front. Please also respect our camera. I know that last time we had a lot of people standing in front of that camera, so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen either. And one more comment, and that is my comment. We want to be able to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity to speak. However, if I do give you a warning, it will be a single warning. And if you are not in compliance after that single warning, then we will take measures, unfortunately, to ensure that this meeting is not disrupted. So I do apologize for having to say that. However, I do also appreciate your cooperation. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So at this time, I believe that we'll start with general comments, and we can start with Mr. Ignacio Lozoya. And his general comment is on a donation and purchase of fire engines and ambulances with the Mexicali Fire Department.
Good afternoon. Could be in English and Spanish?
Spanish, no problem.
Okay,
Español, está bien.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ignacio Lozoya Morales. Soy el subdirector de bomberos de Mexicali. Y la razón por la que estamos aquí es que hace algunos meses tenemos pláticas con el jefe de bomberos para la adquisición de unas máquinas extinguidoras que tiene la ciudad de Caléxico. Y debido a que últimamente tenemos algunos problemas con las unidades, nos vemos en la necesidad de venir con ustedes a solicitar una reunión para ver si esas unidades se nos pueden vender. Tenemos ya prácticas anteriores en las que se hizo un paquete en las que algunas unidades se nos podían donar y otros se nos podían vender. Entonces, debido a que en estos momentos pues tenemos patrocinadores para adquirir esas bomberas, no los queremos perder, entonces nos gustaría tener alguna respuesta para ver si se nos pueden vender esas unidades. Estoy hablando precisamente de 2 unidades marca Pierce 91 que recientemente acaban de sacar de servicio. Y en el mismo paquete van 2 ambulancias, un pick-up y otra máquina extinguidora modelo 78, ¿no? Entonces ahorita la ciudad está pasando por una crisis, como todo, me imagino. Y es por eso que venimos a ustedes, ¿no? Para solicitarles una reunión para ver si nos pueden dar una respuesta para esta compra.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Sé que Calexico es ciudad hermana de Mexicali y
Sí,
sé que...
Sí, somos ciudades hermanas, tenemos mucha colaboración con ustedes, tenemos el plan de ayuda mutua internacional que ahora en el pasado jueves que tuvieron el incendio, pues venimos a apoyarlos, ¿no? Con elementos y con algunas unidades. Incluso estas unidades, si en un momento dado se nos llegaran a adquirir, son las unidades que igualmente les darán apoyo a ustedes, pues entonces quedarían dentro de nuestra comunidad. Y pues más que nada hablaría de la buena relación que existe entre Mexicali y Calexico, ¿no?
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Estamos en comunicación. Sé que el señor Rodríguez...
Just a quick comment that
Sí.
we have been in communication. The chief is trying to get some values on the equipment so that we know what we're talking about. And then there's a process we have to go through to go ahead and recognize them as salvage. And then we can go ahead and move forward with the process. So we're well aware of it. We're trying to move as fast as possible. And I know the chief is on top of it.
Okay.
Gracias. Igualmente, gracias a usted. Okay, Vicente Cuevas, you're next. And just to make sure, can everybody state their name clearly and your place of residence?
Just give them to Mr. Rodriguez. Madam Mayor, who's on deck?
Well, I'm looking for Mohammed Asyad.
He's there.
Mr. Asyad, your slip doesn't say what you wanted to talk about. Public comments. General, you mean? Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Vincent Cuevas. I live here in Dul, Calexico. I'm a resident. I want to say good evening, and dear City Council. What I have before you is a document. Received call over 911 alarm system from Claudia Carvajal reporting brush on fire at Santo Tomas swap meet. Dispatch engine number 863 with Fireman Morales and volunteer Fireman Rivera. On arrival, found brush and debris on fire on west side of railroad tracks and also on the east side of the railroad tracks. Called base station for additional help. County Engine 2829 responded with Captain Lopez and Fireman Chavez. Activated blue shift personnel to cover station when County Engine number 2829 arrived at scene. Found power pole on the east side on fire and power lines down. IID was advised and they responded. Water for both trucks was furnished by a 2.5-inch hose hooked to a nearby hydrant, proceeded to extinguish the fire. Origin of the fire was in the Santo Tomas swap meet trash area. The fire extended from the trash enclosure east across the railroad tracks, igniting the brush on the east side of the tracks. The fire continued to extend east into the Estrada property, damaging some equipment on the adjacent area. Engine number 861 with crew of Fireman Avila and Fireman Beltran responded to kindle of alarm number 258 to extinguish smoldering debris by order of Interim Chief Salorio upon arrival at scene. 50-foot by 1-inch hose was used along, as well as 25 gallons of water to extinguish the smoldering rekindle. I have some pictures that are adjacent to that. This happened in '89. One of these days, a disaster will happen when a fire will ignite a train, because it's right across the tracks that this happened. In 4 years, I've come up here to talk to you. In 4 years, you will have possibly a new port of entry, and traffic will flow north-south on Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Cesar Chavez Boulevard needs to be opened up to Cole Road to relieve the traffic, which will bottleneck at VV Williams. I've looked into this many times, and I recommend you open the road to Cole using Cesar Chavez Boulevard North. I hope that I can also go to the Planning Commission and discuss this matter.
Mr. Cuevas, I'm sorry, time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Mr. Asiad, Mohammed Asiad. And after Mr. Asiad would be Mr. Kevin Smith, please. Please state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohammed Asiad, 1709 Elena Drive, Calexico. I want to bring up back again the issue of safety in our city. I think we need to work and stop the furlough for our officers. I think the shortage in Calexico, we know it for years. We need to have more staff covering the safety of our city and our children and our community. And I think it's a teamwork. So the city knows very well that we do have shortage of officers. You know, you go on Friday and you find nobody, it's closed. It's like, you know, I mean, you're not walking to a police department. And this issue is continuing, and I think the city council need to look into it seriously and take into consideration, you know, the fact that we have a big traffic, and if we have fire or we have emergency on the weekend, what the 3 officers can do? Not very much. You know, this is really becoming out of control. And I think the city need and the councilman need to address this. And the second thing is about, you know, bringing up the police chief things. I think we need to take an action and let the process flow. The community need leadership. They need to work together. The department need also, you know, to conduct their business. The officers need to get back and you know, focus on their job, because I think without leadership is just become a mess. And you know, we've been for many, you know, months now, I mean, we talking and no action. I think democracy is the solution, and I think the council has spoke up. You know, everything went through the process, and I believe, you know, this is healthy. There's nothing wrong with doing it the way it is done, but I think we need to look into the safety and, you know, for the interests of the whole citizen, you know, not anyone in particular or any group in particular. I think Mr. Moreno spoke wisely in the last meeting, and you know, I quote him, you know, he's a wise man. We can't act childishly and you know, act like a children here and quarrel and fight and divide the community. It's not gonna solve anything. It's just gonna put everybody behind. We need to mature and do it professionally. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asiad. Mr. Kevin Smith, please. Mr. Smith, please state your name and your address.
Yeah, my name is Kevin Smith, 2050 Country Club Drive, Hopeville, California. I'm the managing member of Town Center Plaza, and obviously I've met some of you so many times before, it's ridiculous. Okay, anyways, the city collects required town center to place a performance bond of $2.8 million to guarantee the development of Cole and Sunset that was done under the EDA grant. So we, in ensuring the city, provided that bond, and that work was done. The notice of completion was filed on 7/012, July of last year. And legally, the city has 30 days to remove a bond after a notice of completion is filed. We made multiple emails, multiple letters. We've even sent a letter to the EDA and a letter to the bonding company trying to demand someone do something to convince the city of Calexico that it is not in their best interest to hold on to the bond since it's of no value. The work has been performed. You've filed the notice of completion. But no one will take the bond off. Many letters to Oscar. I can't get anybody to do anything. It's just ridiculous. So I'd like to put it on the record. I'd like to request a written response to my request on that singular bond of $2.8 million and its removal from being required to be held on our property any longer.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, next speaker. Was that all, Mr. Smith? Did you want to make a comment?
Well, I was just going to state that he needs to meet with Public Works Director Servine, and I know that I've communicated with Mr. Servine. You need to get together with him.
Okay.
Well, get together with him, and, I mean, we're not going to discuss it here in open.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next speaker is Mr. Ben Horton, and after Mr. Ben Horton would be Ms. Maribel Padilla. Please state your name and your address, Mr. Horton.
Ben Horton, Chairman of the Economic Commission, P.O. Box 2136, Calexico. The reason I'm here, I guess, is to follow up what Mr. Smith talked about, and this in reference to the Economic Commission. We're taking it upon ourselves at our next regular meeting to look at this and see if we can move forward, working with Mr. Servine on this part to move it forward. And by next meeting, after we have our regular meeting, we'll bring some suggestions to the council, because with the town center, we have a possibility of having jobs for the people of Calexico. And I think that's important in reference to the economic part. And we will move that forward. We will come before the city council with a suggestion, working with Mr. Servine and the city manager to move this forward. And I give you my word on that part. And I try to keep my word on certain things if I can. The next part in reference to the airport. We have a meeting with the Finance Committee, and we're ready to start moving forward with suggestions for the airport. We have an international airport that I feel is very much underutilized, and we hope to move this forward to give some suggestions, some workable suggestions that can be worked out. And the last meeting that we had, I talked about having a conference, and we are working toward that conference, and by maybe the next meeting we'll have some suggestions. And one thing I wanted to say, last meeting, I have to apologize to Gabby. I said I didn't have any knowledge that I was supposed to speak. She did remind me that she had told me. For that, I apologize to her publicly. So with that, I end my little talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Okay. That is it for, oh no, I'm sorry. We still have Ms. Maribel Padilla. You're actually the last person under general comments. Would you like to take that opportunity? Okay, please state your name and your address.
My name is Maribel Padilla. I live at 1232 AC Nogales here in Calexico. I'm glad that the council has learned something from the last meeting, which turned into what some people call a circus. There are rules in place to keep order, and as such, I would hope they would be put into effect. If your legal advisor does not have the courage to enforce them, then I would hope your mayor, Tado, you would. You might think seriously about replacing legal advisor with someone that does. You have given the public rules and decorum. My question is, do these rules also apply to the council members as well? Not just the public. A certain council member last time, when you were talking, Mayor Hurtado, interrupted you several times. Even after you asked him to stop, he didn't. I would hope that you would also give him the rules of decorum. There were several complaints from the audience about my children being present last time. I was even insulted by a couple of people, of senior citizens. My children were aware of the negativity coming from the CPOA and audience and were made to feel like they were at fault. This is a public meeting and they are part of the public, like it or not. And obviously, you liked it because I see more children here. The worst part was a CPOA vice president making a remark about them and then when confronted, denied it. I am taking this time to file a formal complaint that I want to deliver to the acting chief of police so it can be on record and not lost in the shuffle when the new chief takes office. Where's Mr. Gonzalo? I hope that today, and the children that are present at this meeting, the council members take the time to thank them for their desire to learn about city government, no matter how circus-like the atmosphere is. Thank you. And I would like to also give a copy to Mr. Castro, who at the last meeting asked if there were any complaints. Mr. Gonzalo. Here's my formal complaint. I hope it doesn't get lost. Thank you.
No, she's got a minute.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Padilla. Okay, now that does conclude our general comments. And so now we're going to be moving on to our council general comments. We can start with you, Mr. Moreno. These are general comments, sir. Then after this, then we're going to jump over to item 7 and we'll have more comments there. This is just general.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce and the Mariachi Committee for putting on an outstanding week of mariachi music, mariachi culture, and honoring our country south of us, the country of Mexico. They had a week full of events, culminating in a tequila tasting on Friday and a mariachi concert on Saturday. So anybody from the chamber here, congratulations. I'm sure they raised a lot of money and everybody had a good time. I'd also like to thank the fire department for doing an outstanding job. I believe it was last Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. We had a warehouse that was on fire across the tracks, as they say there in the Garcia Food Shopping Center. We had a collaboration of many public safety agencies from throughout the county and across the border in Mexicali. I saw Officer Alarcon, Officer Fraker in there on Grant Street as I was driving by to take my son to a baseball game. I felt secure in the knowledge that our team of firefighters, our team of police officers did an outstanding job to keep the city safe and contain the fire. So congratulations to you gentlemen and ladies for doing that for our community. I've said this before, and I just think it's fallen on deaf ears. I think it's very critical that we may have an ordinance for public safety, to make sure that house numbers appear on buildings. If there's a fire, if you see smoke, well, obviously you'll find the fire, but in some instances there may be other things that are going on that you are not aware of. So hopefully we'll look at a type of policy that would require every building, every home to have a visible number in front of its house or in front of its, in the front of it, so that if public safety has to arrive, it would arrive quickly and it'll arrive at the right destination. That's all I have for this, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Mr. Hodge.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, I'd like for us to not lose sight and follow up on our retreat a few months ago, take the next step. Also, I would like to plan seriously on our council workshop on for the city's master plan. We definitely need, as a unity, to have goals and objectives and action plan, and they should be incorporated in our agenda so we know where we're going and what we all want as far as common ground. And I was told, and I agreed to it, that once we have that master plan, then we can move forward in possibly hiring a grant writer and grant coordinator. We need to step up and be more aggressive in grant writing. Also, I want to thank the fire department for your bravery and your service. I echo exactly the same sentiments as Council Moreno, and I'm sure everybody else here. So thank you, gentlemen, and the police department. Thank you very much. That's it for me, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Kim. We're at general comments, Mr. Kim.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are very, looks like this room right now is very hot. And our citizens, we need to stand up for courthouse closing in the city of Calexico. We need to stand up together to try to block that. At least we can have a service, courthouse service in our city. And I was working together. I believe with several people was gathering the sign right now. And the other one is, Mr. Moreno was mentioning about the fire. Any fire like this, major fires, and the loss of involved citizens' safety, City Council should have a report. And I don't have any single report on that fire. I just hereby, and I asked some firemen to what's going on, and I didn't have any report from the staff. And I believe the City Council members, they should have report for, we all here for the, our citizens' safety and our citizens' interest. We are representing community. We're supposed to know all that kind of major happens to make sure to do our jobs. Mr. Haji was mentioning a master plan. I believe about 6 months ago, I've been asked. And just like throwing the stone into the seas. And city council members just commenting here, they don't working well because I believe that we have some kind of a problem to be connected to do work for the citizens' benefit. I believe, I urge it to the fellow council members, we need to work together to do our city's job to connect to the city, citizens' benefit as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Castro?
Yes, I would like to congratulate the fire department for the last fire that occurred on Pierce and Grant. On that day, I was passed from that direction, and I saw all the fire department was there, and I saw most of them was very exhausted. They did a great job, and I would like to congratulate all the department for that wonderful work that you did. That's it. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Within the last 2 weeks, I've had information from our recreation department that the Adopt a Bark program is working really well. And I'd like to congratulate the class of '82 for having adopted the Rodriguez Park, which is one of our parks that is badly needed of attention. Our Adopt a Park programs have been injected with a lot more life now that Sandra Toller is in charge, and we thank very much those members of the community, such as the class of '82, to come out and to give attention to our parks, because working together as a city and the citizens as well helps for these kinds of things to move forward. So thank you so much for that. Also, I want to give out a huge thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and to the consulate here in Calexico for the very successful Mariachi Festival. We had Mr. Oscar Cruz, which was the La Voz Mexico first season winner. Very nice gentleman, sang wonderful together with your brother on the piano, and that was just really beautiful. We had a beautiful weather and a huge crowd, so congratulations to them all for a very successful event. Just yesterday, the interim Gerardo and the new consul Huerta had a meeting yesterday here at the Mexican consulate about the issues going on with the lines going out into Mexicali. Apparently, we've got the Mexican aduanas, customs department holding up things with some operations, and we're trying to have some kind of dialogue and discussions with them to hopefully alleviate the issues that Calexico has when those decisions are made. In other words, trying to make sure that once a decision is made on their end that will affect this community, that we have that line of communication open consistently. So that is the beginning of our conversations there with our new consul. Last week, we also had a meeting with JPA, and at that meeting, we saw now the new transitions to a new bookkeeping program for our JPA monies, now that the treasurer system that we have here in the city of Calexico is different. So we were able to see a smooth transition from the old bookkeeping methods to the new methods. The other thing I want to also tell you is that I participated just this past weekend in an all-female off-road race, and it was to benefit breast cancer awareness, and the invitation came from Marucha Murillo. Her husband is part owner of the Águilas of Mexicali, together with the spouse of Mr. Pérez Tejada, the mayor of Mexicali, and Ms. Osuna Millán, the wife of the Mexicali mayor. So, I'm sorry, governor. So it was a very impressive crowd that put this together, and it was very exciting. I had never done that before, but after all of that, I was really exhausted. So it took me a whole day to rest after that. But here we are, we're ready again, and I think that that's it on the general comments by council members. And I believe, Mr. Rodriguez, you may want to have some comments yourself.
I just have a couple of comments, and I want to thank all the staff because they all do a great job each and every day. So I know sometimes when we get up here and we have an incident that happens, and so we talk about that incident, but we forget that staff does a wonderful job each and every day, and I think it's important to recognize them all, whether there's an incident or not. I think it's important that we thank all the staff, considering that we pare down our staff considerably to the point that now we really are working with, we're down to the bone as far as staff is concerned. So again, I just want to make sure that I preface my comments with that. But it's really, I guess my comments are kind of fire department related during the circumstances that we had on this fire. And but before I don't want to forget, and Chala came up here and let me know, and it's absolutely right. We don't want to forget our police and fire dispatchers who did a great job during that whole incident, trying to move people around and make sure that they communicated properly, and making sure that they had the information that was appropriate to be able to help the fire and the police department do their jobs. So again, we mustn't forget all these other people that are behind the scenes that are just as important. The other thing that's, and again, it's going to sound like a fire department day today, but we want to thank the fire department because of the mutual aids that we have throughout the state. They also responded to a mutual aid call with 4 of our personnel to the Ventura County when they had these fires up in the Ventura County. And that was we are involved in a state mutual aid pack, and they did a wonderful job, helped out quite a bit, and came back, and we do get reimbursed by the state of California, and in this particular case, the county of Ventura, for our assistance during those fires. We have seen an increase in medical calls to the Grand Plaza area, and I'm sure you can figure out why over the past few weeks. As the weather gets a little warmer, I think we're going to get more and more calls out there, as a lot of the workers that come from outside the area don't understand our climate. And so, we're trying to make sure that they understand that they need to be hydrated, and I know the chief and the fire department has been passing that information out to them on a constant basis. Interestingly enough, it wasn't worked out this way, but we had the fire on one day, and then the next day or the following week, we had an item before Measure H committee in reference to fixing our aerial ladder truck. It wasn't planned that way. It just happened that way, and the Measure H has been kind enough to recommend to you, and it'll be coming before you in the near future, assistance in providing for the repair of our aerial ladder truck, which is very important to us as the city grows. We obviously need to make sure that we have these type of equipment and that they're up to snuff to be able to respond to any and all of these particular circumstances. Thank you. And thanks again to all of the city employees who do a hard job each and every day.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Okay, so now we are at the moment here in our agenda where we're going to be moving up business item number 7, discussion and/or action on resolution to approve the police chief appointment and approve the agreement for employment. So what we agreed on is that we'll start out with public comments, then from there we'll go to public comments. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Council comments first, public comments, and then any further discussion after that. So I guess we'll start with you, Mr. Moreno.
Yes. Yeah. I want to say that the selection of the chief is a very integral part of our city administration, and I've been running this over in my head for quite some time. I have experience in education where I've gone through processes, where I've gone through tiers of interviews, and I felt that we didn't do the right thing in our process. Nothing against the gentleman that is recommended personally, but from the get-go, I felt that we needed to do more of our due diligence. I felt that we needed to remove the politics within our selection process. Go to the next slide. I want to say the process, to me, in my opinion, is flawed. We could have done a better job. We could have made it more rigorous. We could have made it more inclusive. We could have included people who work directly with the chief by including our staff. I applaud Mr. Hodge for always wanting to include employees in decision-making. But in this decision-making, only one employee, other than our city manager, was present in the selection of the chief. I want to say, let's make it equitable, let's make it balanced. That didn't happen with this process. This process included 5 individuals, 4 of which were not stakeholders in the city of Calexico, with the exception of our DA and our city manager. They're going to select for us who is going to run the force. I felt that that was lacking in many things. Again, I emphasize the voice of the employees. second. Next slide. In today's world, administrators get tons of emails. They've got to write many reports. They've got to submit many things to different agencies. I did not see that in this process. I emphasized that with the balance of the council, they felt it wasn't important. They swept it under the rug. I looked at some of the samples. I wasn't very impressed. But then again, I wasn't impressed with the writing, with the prompts themselves. I would have liked to have seen all candidates on a computer working with various programs. It could be Word, it could be a JPA, or Adobe, what have you, but to compose a memo to the staff where they needed to work on something, or perhaps compose a press release on something positive that has happened in the force. And the final one, to compose a proposal for a grant. All this to have done prior to the oral interview. It didn't happen. I believe that the way it played out was not how I expected it to play out. I've gone through interviews. I've gone through interviews of this type. We want to select the best candidate for CoCLX. We didn't do our due diligence, ladies and gentlemen. I don't support the process, and I want to emphasize that. Next slide. I felt we could have composed a panel of 10 people, maybe 11, but I would like to have seen our fire chief, Peter Mercado, facilitate the oral interview process. I'm sure he has experience, knowledge, education when it comes to things of this nature. I'd like to have seen 2 department heads to sit on the panel, maybe human resources, maybe finance, maybe public works. It didn't happen. I'd like to have seen maybe local, federal, or state, or county members of law enforcement also to give their opinion. The most critical part comes in the next 5 people. I felt a police officer. We had one on the previous one, and this one should have been on this panel. I felt a classified, a dispatcher maybe, could have been placed on this panel. Maybe a clerical employee could have been placed on this panel. I felt the police commissioner, maybe not the most vocal ones, but one of the ones that aren't vocal, to be placed on this panel. And maybe another person at the discretion of the city manager, where we wouldn't have a part of this, where he would do his job and allow this process to go without politics. Finally, the third part of the interview, the top 2 or 3 candidates, maybe the top 2 candidates who have been rated by the interview panel, whose writing samples were rated by 2 other department heads who weren't part of the interview panel, to have a one-on-one interview with our city manager. It would now be his turn to ask those critical questions, those tough questions, and he rate that particular candidate on who he thought was the best. After it's gone to 2 tiers. This is the 3rd tier now. It didn't happen. I'd like to have seen a recommendation from him based on this process. And I said it from the get-go, but the balance of the council felt that their way was better. We have a divided city on how this played out. This system has worked in other public agencies. It's not a perfect system. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's better than what we did for the selection that we made. Finally, if the council didn't agree, then perhaps maybe hire a firm to conduct a search if they couldn't take action. Excuse me, this is my opinion, and I respect your opinion, so please respect mine. So there you are. Just a simple process that I felt could have done a better job involving people that work with the chief on a daily basis, but we didn't have that. And I think we're shortchanging our community. I am not going to support the decision that is before us today, and it's nothing personal against Mr. Tavares, but it's something that has to do with the process that I believe we could have changed a few things. Thank you very much.
Can somebody turn back on the lights? Mr. Hodge.
Respect Councilman Morel's valid points. We should definitely listen to them. And I have done some soul searching also and evaluation. We're both in education. We've learned to be objective as possible. But ladies and gentlemen, all of us are human beings, and part of being human beings, we carry prejudices and biases. And you can't eradicate that, but what you can do is be smart enough to acknowledge it and overcome them or use them when they're appropriate. Biases can be beneficial. Depends on what side of the wall or the line you're on. The decision to have the city council involved in the selection of the police chief, I had questioned it, and I found out that it was legal. It was a legal option to do it this way. Yes, there's the other option of only solely the city manager, but if my memory serves us right, once we hashed things out, we all agreed that we would be, in one way or another, a part of the process. This process, it was a viable method, and it has been done with other city governments. So what we did was nothing unusual, abnormal, as far as the process is concerned. It's just a matter of your particular perspective, whether you like it or not, and you have that right. Why did I choose or agree to have 5 on the panel? For the very values and concerns that Councilman Moreno is voicing. I didn't want one councilman, and when we're one, now look at us, we're one. It's like when you marry your wife, you marry the family. So when you see me, you got to remember I have a lot of constituents. I have a lot of friends. We all do. So it's just not us making a choice. It's those other voices behind us that we may agree or disagree. So I thought, in order to be most equitable, and there would be no room for accusations that the council was stacking the deck, then I felt that we all individually should just choose one. Now, you might contest the idea of only 5 as a panel. There was a book written in the 60s. The title was Small Was Beautiful. 5 members on the panel was truly diverse. Remember their names, remember their backgrounds. In fact, it leaned more to law enforcement, and within law enforcement, there's always ranking, there's always class, more of an administrative ideology, which it should be, but not exclusively. And I'll get to that point in a minute. But ladies and gentlemen, think a minute who these people are on the panel, and think of human resources, and think of our city manager. So to criticize this panel, and they were all professionals, is to insult the integrity of these high-ranking citizens and professionals that were in law enforcement. Now, as to the individuals, and especially my selection, I will tell you why I selected a police officer, for that very reason. He's a soldier. He's on the ground. And I used my experience as a teacher. I resent and I will fight when administrators in the school district make high, critical, crucial decisions. Now, not all the time, but a lot of times we'll make these decisions that deeply impact teachers and students, and they do not include us in the decision-making. That is elitist. That is power on one side only. That smacks against democracy. Teachers, police officers, firemen, working people, employees at Jack in the Box, all need a voice in the process when you're working. Not just managers and administrators. And who better than police officers to tell you and give their voice as to what should be the attributes and criticals and values of a chief of police. Who is going to work with the chief of police? Not the other department heads, those police officers. Now, am I saying that we should only listen to them? Of course not. But to exclude them is wrong. So, with all due respect, our former mayor, which I thought he's a great guy, he's contributed a great deal. I disagree that that police officer was not eligible or not qualified. If anything, he was the most important one to be there because he is going to work with the chief of police. I don't like the elitist attitude. Administrators, high-ranking get together, they decide, and then they're going to tell everybody else, the little guy, what to do. I don't like that. That's not equitable. That's elitist, and that smacks of democracy. Yes, we do need to respect our superiors. There is due process and protocol, but not to include a worker, not to include a police officer, a foot soldier, that's wrong. So that's my justification. The process for selecting a police chief, it was legal and correct and done with due diligence. It was rigorous. Just because it was 5 doesn't mean it wasn't rigorous. And if you think otherwise, then confront our city manager and our staff. It's an insult to them. It's due process. There was due process. I asked that over and over again. Was it done correctly? It was told to me, yes. The panel and the process was inclusive and equitable. Think about the people that sat on that panel. And I am getting a little miffed. I support local. But we talk about inclusiveness. There seems to be a strong bias about someone that works their butts off in this community and gives, but they're not a resident here. I'd like to be told, how does that disvalue their contribution? So it was a good cross-section of professionals. In fact, as I noted before, it leaned more to the administrative perspective, which it should be. Now let's look at the pool of applicants. 3 were already eliminated, and it was down to 5. I can't, okay. But I'm going to say that within the pool, the most qualified, in my opinion, was the candidate with the highest points. I was told you don't have to go that way, but that is valuable. If the panel had integrity and the highest points, who has the highest points? That's your main guy. This candidate that's going to be selected today, unlike some of the other candidates, has no skeletons in the closet, has no alleged criminal background. He will play no favoritism, and that includes the union. Now, the union, many citizens are educated a certain way through media, through even teachers, through the church, and today even more so, unions, whether it's teacher or police officer or caregiver were demonized. But unions represent, and small businesses I include, they represent the heart of working families. And he will play no favorites to the union. I do have a criticism about the police union. But unions need to be aggressive, ladies and gentlemen. They don't need to be rude, but they need to be aggressive. Because how does the working person stand up for their rights and gain and empower themselves, but not only through being collective? When you have huge corporations and huge administrators, you're not going to go in there by yourself and say, please, can I have a raise? Good luck. You know that. You know that's the reality. Union protects the working person. It strengthens and promotes. So they have to be political, ladies and gentlemen. If a union wasn't political, what's the point of being a union? They wouldn't be protecting their members that extend to their families. They would be passive. They would be stepped on, as they have been historically. And this new chief of police, I believe, most importantly, will strengthen community relations. I believe with this new chief of police, ladies and gentlemen, you will see more police officers patrolling. I believe you will see them, those officers, actually getting out of their cars and talking to citizens. You will see them walking downtown like the good old days, policing on foot. This is what I hope, and I believe that new chief of police will embrace that. He'll try his best. You will see the police department even more involved with the youth, because personally myself, and I'm very sure that new chief of police will push for coming back, bringing back PAL. Youth activities will thrive. So I say it clearly, Travares is the man of the community. What is really, no, I don't want to go in what is really happening here. Now today is the time to hire our new police chief. So let's focus on the future, ladies and gentlemen. Please, look, listen, think about your children that are in school. They mess up. You want that teacher to give them an opportunity. You want to encourage them. Well, this is the time, for better or worse, put aside your biases, and whoever we select, we need to come together, at least temporary, and encourage and support that new police chief. Think about if we're divided, how difficult you're going to make it. You're going to set him up for failure, and then we're going to turn around and blame him. That's not right. We need to encourage, just like as a teacher, I encourage every day. Every day is a new day for those children. I encourage them. I support them. We need to do the same thing as a community and as the family of Calexico. I think you will be happily surprised. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Kim.
I'm envy to the council members. They have a nice speech. I won't be able to make that nice speech, but I'm gonna say on my heart. I've been served the panel for the hiring superintendent and school district. We had 11 members. Compare them that panel we had, excellent job they did. The panel, they had the chance to interview the candidate and they put their own point. And school district, when they had the panel is almost accessory. They already have a calculating by own. I believe this panel has been working very well and very well selected. And a while ago, I was complaining about why only one city employee. Well, other councilmen, they had a chance to name other city employee, and they didn't do it. They didn't name the other employee except Mr. Hodges, to name it. And now it's complaining because the other councilman didn't appoint the employee. Why they didn't do themselves? And this complaint, as flawed, whatever criticism over the panel, didn't come out until interview finished. Until they, I believe I don't know how they know it, until they found it, who has first, second, third, and start coming interview flawed. Now we have our council members criticizing and disrespecting their own choice of the panel. They said flawed. This kind of disrespect has been going on our city long time. Somebody they don't like, flawed. Somebody they not happy with them, flawed. It has to be stopped. We were saying city divided deeply. Yes, I agree with it. Why? Because one side had never been outspoken. They were quiet, they were been beating. Years. I've been here more than 30 years, I've been seeing my own eyes. That's why I stood up. There's no more. This is democratic. There's no owners, there's ownership in here. We all owners, we all owned it. Not because someone who born in Calexico, they raised in Calexico, they own this city. Nobody owns it. Citizens own it. So we are all owners. We all have ownerships. We have the same concern. We have the same hope to city prosper. Whatever we had the differences, someone wanted to recall me, go ahead. But whatever we have differences, we make decision, we put differences, lay down to put the differences, and we need to work together to make the better service for our community and growing our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Castro.
Yes, I'm concur with Mayor Pro Tem Bill Hash and Council Member Mr. Kim. The selection of the new chief of police in our process was excellent, very democratic. Every councilman appoint one of the members for the panel. I haven't seen nothing wrong with the process. Pompeo Tavares, he is one of the candidates, and he get the higher score. He's gonna get at-will contract. If he doesn't meet the needs for the citizens of this Calexico, we can get rid of him from one day to another. That's something that we need to make sure who's going to be the next police chief. So there's no doubt about it. He can be a good chief of police. He can be a good chief of police. Like I said a few minutes, I'm concur with both Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Bill Hatch and Councilman Kim. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to support I've heard Mr. Moreno indicate that there's been serious concerns with the selection process, and it's very unfortunate to hear my members here indicate that it was an unflawed process, because we all know what occurred here, starting with Mr. Rodriguez, Ms. Lyons, and every single member on this council. We know exactly what happened here, and a lot of what occurred did occur in closed session. And unfortunately, you indicate that we should always leave a voice for our employees. However, as you know from our last meeting, one of the main concerns was not allowing the voice of the citizens to be involved. We never got an answer as to why the citizens were not involved. And, as far as my position and what a lot of people ask me about this process, I have restrictions, and those restrictions are that a lot of what occurred was in closed session. However, I have noticed that several of our members do, in fact, elaborate quite a bit about what does happen in closed session. And one of those concerns you just said now, Mr. Hodge, you just said it yourself, that you had major concerns about criminal backgrounds of certain candidates before going into this. Those were my concerns as well. And those concerns were presented to you in several occasions by verbally giving that to you, by giving an email to you in a formal manner, looking for solutions. And looking for solutions so that once this process ended, it was a fair process. And once I saw what Mr. Hodge has actually admitted to you today, that he did feel there was criminal background things to be concerned about, that doesn't give a fair opportunity to our applicants when we already have a certain biased opinion. If you will all notice in our last meeting, there has never been a word from myself or from anyone else, I would say rather Mr. Moreno, that we are not in favor of this process, anything negative about any of the applicants. It's always been the process. And at this time, it really is disappointing to hear that you will admit that you had issues with the applicants. And so if no one sees a problem with that, and that there does actually give a fair opportunity to applicants, it confuses me to understand why you feel that way. From the beginning, there was a push and a push and a push for things to go too quickly, and it was about why we want the best candidate. At this point today, there's this item number 7, the discussion and interaction on resolution to approve the police chief appointment and approve the agreement for employment. However, we don't even have the results for the background yet. So this is the second time we've had this item on the agenda with no background results. And I just don't understand why. Do we hire the premier officer of this city that's going to be responsible for the airport, for 2 borders, and an international location without a background check? It just doesn't seem right to me. And I hope it doesn't seem right to you either. This is a bad situation for our community. And again, I say from the tippy top of what has happened here, starting with Mr. Rodriguez and Ms. Lyons and everyone on here, is dragging this community through something that it doesn't deserve. This community has let go of a fine chief who was very experienced, very well liked in the community, very experienced with budgets, very experienced with the different types of processes that a chief requires. Without going into detail as far as who the candidates were, because I don't want to do that, but it doesn't appear as if this candidate has what it takes right now at this time for this city. That's my personal opinion. I think that we need a home run hitter. And in this case, I think we're getting a bunner. And I just don't think that that is what this city requires at this time. Another issue that very much concerns me is that we need to take our steps a lot closer, a lot slower. I feel that this whole process has been, from the get-go, a situation of pure pressure on our management, pressure on us, and it doesn't make sense to me to have to go through this when we don't deserve that. So as far as the bias, it's there, and the concern is there. It's never going to stop being there because If it would have been a fair deal, I think that you all would have listened to the first solutions I was giving to you in closed session, that you ignored those first solutions. At this time, Mr. Moreno's giving you another solution which is a neutral solution to avoid dragging this community through the mud. And it would be a shame that you don't listen to those solutions and you are only fixed on one candidate. And it's been like that from the beginning. And again, you know, the things that have been coming out of this council, I'm absolutely ashamed. And it's a sad day in the city of Calexico for the citizens. And like I said, I'm concerned to hire someone at this point with no final results in background check. So that, if that doesn't seem correct to you, then I'm glad you agree with me. And if you don't, I'm very sorry. If you don't agree with that, I do have the right to my opinion as well. So with that, we'll close up the...
Mayor?
I'm sorry, we're only going to be able to speak once. We're going to close up our council comments, and we're now going to continue with public comments. Before we continue with public comments, I'm going to ask
Mayor,
one more time.
May I speak?
Yes.
May I speak?
Yes.
Yes?
Do you want to make more comments?
Just one.
Go ahead.
Can I speak?
Sure, go
Yes?
ahead. That's okay, we'll go ahead and let, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask, City Manager, how many applicants did you receive for the positions?
I don't think we can do that. It's closed session stuff.
That's a public answer.
City Attorney, is the question that he's asking, it's subject to closed session, isn't it?
No,
Solely giving
you
the
opened up.
number of applicants is fine. Other than that, nothing else should be talked about related to candidates.
Just the number of applicants is fine. Okay.
If the council
How many?
wants to answer.
I believe it was 13.
13 applicants for that position?
That's correct.
Okay, and who choose the top 5?
Madam Mayor, I think this is all...
Let the city
all
attorney tell me
personnel.
that. Let the city attorney tell me that.
This is
Mr.
I'm
personnel.
talking.
This is
I'm
personnel.
talking.
Mr. Castro, please calm down. Mr.
This is
Castro?
personnel. and
No,
it should
I'm
not be
talking,
discussed.
let the city attorney answer that.
Okay, Mr.
You
Castro,
can raise
you
your
don't-
voice, Mr. Castro, but I
Hey,
think
no,
it's still wrong what you're asking.
Let the city attorney tell me if I'm wrong or I'm okay.
Okay, gentlemen, excuse me, gentlemen? Okay, there's only one question now that we're going to ask. City Attorney, is it okay if we ask that question? How many applicants? We had the answer, which was 13.
I would
And then-
not recommend.
Okay, we don't recommend that we continue that conversation, Mr. Castro.
Thank you.
Could have been the
Thank you.
city attorney for a minute.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the public comments portion of the agenda. And we have one last call, please. I'm going to take a small recess just to give you guys an opportunity to submit more speaker slips. So we'll take a 5-minute reset. 5-minute recess. So anyone who wants to make a public comment on this item, please do so now. All right. Meeting is called back to order. Thank you very much for your patience. We're going to go ahead and start now with the comments from the public. And once again, we have moved up business item number 7, the discussion and our action on resolution to approve the police chief appointment and approve the agreement for employment. And that's item number 7. We moved that up, and at this point, we are now at the public comment section. And so I guess we'll start with Ian Lopez. I think it's Ian. Ian, can you please state your name and your address?
Hi, it's
Ian,
pronounced
Ian.
Ian. My name is Ian Lopez. I live at 2018 South 9th Street in El Centro. My parents are both from from Calexico, so, I take pride in the valley and I make sure that everything goes well. But I just have a question for the council that doesn't need to be answered now. But it's been said that this candidate has little to no experience, and choosing him for a chief, the background check hasn't even been processed, or it's not in, or whatever. It wasn't really made clear. But why is this candidate already being looked at? Also, we were all given a decorum, someone that could be so professional. How come he wasn't, handling himself very well right now? And so I just want to make sure that everyone here today witnesses this, and if this is going to be someone that's going to be in our public, it doesn't look too good right now. So what we have now, it's just a barnyard explosion. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Morris Risen, you're next. Please state your name and your address. And Mr. Raul Ureña, you'll be after him, please.
Morris Risen, 2125 Banda. You know, we're having these fights and bickering every time we come up here about a fire chief, which the city manager is supposed to put together and give it to you guys so you won't have to micromanage. But Mr. Kim, I never agree with Mr. Kim, but 3,200 people do, and in Castro, 2,600 people did, and they have a voice. And if they want to bar us, whatever, get them in, and let's do it, and let's go on.
Mr. Ureña? Mr. Ureña? Oh. I am just calling everybody out. After you is Carla Miramon. That way we can go through this a little quicker. Go ahead.
Ready?
Please state your name and your address, please.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Raul. Is this thing on? All right. Good evening. My name is Raul Ureña. I live here in Calexico at E. Rivera Avenue. And this is my first city council experience. It hasn't been very well. But you see, the first thing I wanted to say is I was shocked when I first came in here to see 5 police officers here. This isn't democracy. Why do we have a closed door here? If we want to involve people, we are not supposed to drive them away by putting men with guns around the building. We want to make it an open process in a big room. Now, going with the subject at hand, Mr. Tabares, I have absolutely no idea how the process went. I'm barely new here. But if atrocities like this keep happening, if we see civil strife, civil division, I'm going to come here more often, and I'm going to express my opinion. And according to Mr. Tabares, I think he's a good man. I've known him. I've campaigned for Ms. Butner, and I saw him on the campaign. He's educated. I know he teaches at IVC. And he was a retired sheriff. I mean, what more do you want? I strongly recommend that you approve this immediately. If he doesn't work, fire him the next day. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Ms. Carla Miramon, and after you is Mr. Jaime Jimenez.
Good evening. My name is Carla Miramon, and my address is 718 South Preston. I have one question. I came to the last meeting, and it got real ugly, and it was about to get ugly right now with Mr. Castro with raising his voice, and that is so unprofessional for a councilman. But anyways,
please.
Excuse me. If the way I listen, you need to listen.
Carla, okay. Ms. Miramon, please.
To you. Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry. Well, anyways, I cannot understand how you can hire a chief without a criminal background investigation being fully completed. I mean, everybody here is very highly educated, and I just don't know how you guys can do that. Mr. Hodge, you just contradicted yourself with everything you said. You know, it's like, what's going on here? It's been, from the get-go, this was a flaw, and it continues to be a flaw. So, hiring this man right now, God bless Calexico. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Miramon. Mr. Jimenez, and after Ms. Jimenez is Mr. Asiad.
Good evening to everybody. My name is Jaime Jimenez, 5 Palm Drive. And I'm here to say that the chief of police is the person in charge, the head person in charge of the security of my family and myself and all the residents and visitors of Calexico. It's a heavy responsibility. It's a serious responsibility. So this person, at least my point of view, needs to have the following experience: hands-on experience, proven technical experience, proven administrative experience, proven diplomatic and or political abilities. And whoever, if it gets choose today and it doesn't work out, I will like to see the people doing the votes leaving their seats, because you have to pay for your mistakes. And talking about security, gets very serious. It's not everybody's human. We're talking about the security of my kids. If it works out, then it was fun and it was a good exercise, and I was wrong. But if I hope it goes okay. If the candidate gets named today, then I hope it goes okay, because then nobody gets hurt. But in the case that it goes wrong, somebody gets hurt, then you guys need to quit. You guys that put him in need to quit. Be behind your words and your position. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Mr. Asiad? Mr. Guzman, you're after him.
Good evening again. This time I like to say, Mr. Moreno's speech was excellent, but it wasn't, it should be done a long time ago before these things happen. I think maybe would have worked, but at the moment, I think it's just too late. But I like to say, Sheriff Tabares is a family man. I known him for many years, and he is being a city of Calexico resident also, although he resides in Heber. But he has all his kids law enforcement. They're serving in the army. And the man have served 36 years as an experienced law enforcement all over the valley. He ran for sheriff. He contributed to many things. We cannot put a man down just because we don't like his look or his color or his race. It seems to me we're getting really low to the point we're not even giving him a chance. It's like you cannot judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a man without knowing what he capable to do. Just give him a chance, and we'll decide, and the citizen and the community will see how effective is the man. I think he is a great man with a lot of values, like Mr. Hodge. His speech was an outstanding, because people have a lot of contribution. I don't have to be on the newspaper in order to be known that I give to the community. Sometimes I do it without anybody knowing. So do I make me a bad citizen? I think Mr. Tabares will be a great contribution to Calexico, and maybe we all can work together and get over with this, drama. Thank you.
Mr. Guzman? Mr. Guzman.
Good evening.
Mr. Guzman, please state your name and your address, and after you is Ms. Maribel Padilla.
My name is Eduardo Eri Guzman at 344 East 3rd Street in Calexico. And as I've been here in this hall, I was in the city council back in the 98s. The process, really the way it should be, it's that the city managers would have chosen the chief of police, the fire chief. It's the right process, but right here in this city, it's only in Calexico that has never done that. It's always gone by the 3-2. And it's something that's changing right now. I can see when I'm back here, I see that two gentlemen, Mr. Kim and Mr. Castro, the city is made of actually immigrants here. We're all immigrants. And this is the problem here, that the immigrants have not been heard, and that's what the people want now. They want the new citizens that are becoming every other month. We got citizens and new citizens coming up, and they're anxious to vote because they want to change. And this is the change that they decided on, and the votes are there. Even in this room here, if you want a majority of votes for the candidate that was chosen by the highest authority of our valley, it's right here. All the applauses, we can see the process. You should just understand that gain our votes instead of just rejecting them, This is something that you, Mr. John Moreno, you can gain more votes here if you work with us. We want the man that's qualified. We want the man that was the highest point getter. And this is what the city of Calexico wants. The immigrants, at one time, they are now, we are citizens of our adopted country. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Padilla, if you could please state your name and your address, and Mr. Alarcón, you will be next.
My name is Maribel Padilla. I live at 1232 AC Nogales, Calexico. I feel this whole controversy could have been averted if the city manager would have done his job. If the public works director and accountant were hired without a panel, why not the chief? I agree with Mr. Moreno. We need to throw this process out and start anew. I would also like to see it advertised nationwide to avoid hiring a compadre. If a qualified candidate is not found, then dissolve the Calexico PD and have the sheriffs police us, as they already do other cities like Heber, Hopeville, and North End cities. At the last meeting, Mr. Castro was intent on doing things the way other cities do. Well, here's your chance to join them. The voters of Calexico are watching each and every single council member, and we will remember how you vote today. When we are at the polls, also remember, half of the CPOA doesn't live in the city. They can't vote for you. And your cobijas do not buy my vote. The people were not represented in this process, and that is not right. I have a question for the council. How exactly do 4 former police chiefs with years of experience rank lower than the chosen one? I don't understand. I don't care how deep his ties are to this valley, as stated by Mr. Hodge in the news. I want to know what his qualifications are that ranked him so high on top of other chiefs. And how does anyone get hired without a background check? My background check took 6 months. I was not hired till it was over. It should be the same way for this chief. In closing, I was offended by Mr. Hodge, who continuously made faces when the mayor was speaking. Mr. Castro broke the rules of decorum by speaking after his turn was over. Where is your respect? Why do you ask questions that should have been asked long before, only in Calexico?
I'd like to remind the audience to please give respect to the speaker, and please remain as silent as you can, please, so that we can hear. It's really important for you all to know that when we're up here and there's a speaker there, we cannot hear very well because those speakers are facing that way. So when you are all talking, it's really hard for us to hear the speakers, okay? So I really appreciate that. Plus, to give us some respect. Go ahead, Mr. Alarcón.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Rudy Alarcón. I represent the Calexico Police Officer Association. I will give the PD address, since my address is deemed to be confidential, 420 East 5th Street, Calexico, California, 92231. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like it's been a long process and many things have been said. One of the things that stands out to me is the council, some of the council members themselves have said that we are outsiders. Some of the council members have even said that we're rejects from LA, and we're not true Calexicans. As if a true race existed, as if a Calexican was part of a true race. I tell you, there's a German who agrees with that mentality. Thank God he's no longer with us. His name is Adolf Hitler. Mr. Moreno put a presentation up on the board, and it's actually a pretty good presentation. I wish that presentation would have been around when your cousin got hired, when he wasn't even on the list and was hired. We speak of transparency, we speak of change. Apparently, if it's not your idea, it's flawed. If it's not your idea, it's corrupt. Change is here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's appoint this chief today who has come out as #1 candidate. I was part of the selection process, the interview process for the chief of police. And it's offensive that you would think that the highest authority in this valley would be flawed or would have swayed or been persuaded to go a certain direction. How dare you offend the district attorney like that? Let's move on. Let's turn a new page. Let's begin a new chapter. Let's do what we've all sworn to do. We as police officers are public servants. Let's go out there and serve our community. Councilmen, let's serve our community. Let us move forward. Thank you.
Okay, final speaker is Mr. Daniel Romero, and that'll be the final speaker on this item.
Daniel Romero. I'll hold my address secret since my business is out of town. I had one item to talk about today, and during all the presentations by the council members and the public, I kept running down notes, and I just went, forget it. And I'll just make it very sincere. The whole process of hiring the candidate today started in 2008 when Councilman Luis Castro was already vying for the dismissal of Jim Newjar to get this gentleman in. 2 years later, another councilman was giving his support. It didn't happen. Now they have a third council member. One of the things that is going on right now, and which has been repeated over, this should not even be in today's agenda. And city attorney and city manager, I have no idea how this came to the agenda without the final background check being done on any of the candidates, including, with all due respect, Mr. Pompeo Tavares, who's here to be voted in as our next chief of CoCLX. Mr. Hodge, you mentioned about integrity, professionalism, and also bias. Back in February, before Mr. Newjar retired from his post, there was a quote in the paper as you saying that you were approached by 2 other council members in lobbying for the hiring of today's candidate. That was biased, has been biased. The panel itself, there is at least one member that I would have to question the integrity. And I will first say that police officers for the city of CoCLX, I have the utmost and had the utmost and will continue to have the utmost respect for each and one of you. I do not with the CPOA leadership. That in itself should question that with all the things that the CPOA president right now mentioned, something about past council meetings and his antics that he has done in council sessions in the past, should leave a message to the public what his real focus is. And it's not professional. And it's biased. Now, one of the things that was said also was in fact, even led by Mr. Hermosillo, you stopped me one time.
Mr. Hermosillo, let me decide that, okay?
Point
I
of
am
order.
the chair.
I'll get you next time.
Let him speak. Let him finish, please.
According to mine, you have 20 seconds. Go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. And I'm sorry, Mr. Romero.
I congratulate you, Mr. Moreno, for bringing up that presentation, but as was mentioned before, unfortunately, it was a little too late. I would hope that this council does not make this final decision until the final selection is made. And for those other chiefs that did not qualify for the final selection, then probably expect what's next. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes our public comments, and I want to thank everyone for maintaining calm and no interruptions. So thank you so much.
Good job, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we are now then at the point of having a vote, I guess, if I have any motions.
Motion to make to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Kim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Kim, second by Mr. Castro. I'm sorry, could you please clarify what your motion is?
Motion to approve it and the pending of the finalizing the process,
What process?
the employment requirements.
Which ones?
Mayor, may I speak to an amendment to resolution?
I am, yes, ma'am.
Section 2, staff would suggest that Section 2 of the reso be amended to reflect that the City Council, if you approve this resolution, the approval and the appointment and the authorization of the city manager to enter into the contract would be contingent upon the completion of all pre-employment requirements. So employment of the police chief would not start until completion of those requirements.
Is that then the suggestion to Mr. Kim to amend his motion to include that information?
Yes, I make the motion to amend the motion to approve it with the changes for the until pending the complete the employment process, his employment started.
You mean the background investigation, Mr. Kim? Is that what you mean?
It's all pre-employment requirements.
Okay, including the background investigation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, one more time, do you mind saying that? I'm sorry for interrupting. Do you mind repeating your motion?
Looks like you want me to take the whole night. If you like
You
it, I
usually do.
can talk the whole night.
No, it's
You
okay.
usually do.
It's okay.
You usually do, Mr. Kim, come on.
Go for it, Kim.
I make the motion to approve it as it is, except following the employment requirements to starting to the employment after finish the employment requirements. His employment will be started.
So the approval would be contingent upon completion of all pre-employment requirements?
Yes.
That's his amended motion?
Yes.
Do you have a motion then on the floor? Do I have a second? I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Okay. First by Mr. Kim, second by Mr. Castro. Please vote.
Working?
Doesn't work?
There we go. Thank you, Gabby. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for your patience. We will be now going back on to the consent agenda of our calendar today.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent items 1 through 6.
I second that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we have a first and we have a second.
I need to pull out.
Mr. Moreno, would you like to
It's up to the
rescind your
second.
motion to allow Mr. Kim to pull some items?
As second, I will allow that.
Okay, Mr. Kim, which items would you like to pull?
Well, number 3, the pull out.
You would like to pull number 3 for discussion?
Yeah, 3, 4, 5.
Number 3, number 4, and number 5 for discussion? Okay, those are 3 items, and we're going to limit that to 3 minutes, Mr. Kim, okay? So I need a modified motion, please.
Approve items 1, 2, and 6.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Okay, first and second, may you please vote? Okay, we're gonna have it. Okay, I'll take a verbal vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Castro?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kim? Aye. Okay, Mr. Kim, you have 3 total minutes on items 3, 4, and 5. Would you like to start with number 3? Mr. Moreno, could you please keep time?
Yes, ma'am.
And start the time when he starts speaking.
Page 1. The Barney and Barney LLC.
Item 3.
Yeah. This is questioning. And what is consulting?
What is Barney and Barney?
Yeah, Barney and Barney's.
They are our medical consultants on our insurance plan.
Mega?
They are our medical consultants on our medical plan.
Okay.
We have a retainer with them.
So beside the Pinnacle, we have another one?
Yeah, they are the ones that actually help us to review our plan and make sure that it's appropriate. Pinnacle actually does the payment of our claims.
Okay. And the second page. Dudek? Dudek?
Oh, Dudek, they're consultants on, I believe it's Mega Park, and that is paid by the developer, and then we use that money for the consultants to do the environmentals.
So it's money coming in and they're like
Yes,
reimbursing?
it's a reimbursement, yes.
Okay, but I believe I wanted to have all the budget information about the mega park project, the old one, new one, I didn't get yet.
Okay, we can make sure you get it. Nick, can you make sure that he gets it? Thank you.
Please. I'd like to know who's the owner of the Hunter Employment, that's incorporation or solar?
It's a corporation.
Incorporations. Okay, then. I see the Bank of New York, $1,000. Is that the fee for the bond?
I'm sorry, what page you're on?
Page 5, Bank of New York.
I believe those are administrative fees that we pay for them. They serve as our trustee. Am I correct there, John? John? Am I correct there? Those are administrative fees for the trustee, Bank of New York?
Mr. Kim, you have 30 seconds.
So Urban Futures, they have another check coming in, 7,500, page 12. They have like a service for the grant. Page 12.
Okay, they actually serve in a couple of capacities. One is on our project, Grand Plaza project, and those are reimbursed by the developer. And then they also serve as consultants to our successor agency, and that is paid by the successor agency.
Okay, Mr. Kim, your time is up, and I would assume that the balance of the council would believe that these kinds of questions should be asked in your review time with the city manager. Would the balance of the council want to have Mr. Kim continue asking these questions?
Negative.
These line of questions? Okay, Mr. Kim, I believe that we need to move on. Would you like to have number 3 approved? Would you like to motion to have item number 3 approved? Or anyone else would like to motion, please, so we can move on.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. First by Mr. Moreno, second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote, and this is to approve the warrant register of claims paid in the month of April 2013. That's item number 3 under the consent agenda.
It's not working. There you go.
I think I have to start it.
Oh.
Oh, is it you?
No.
I think we're going to have to replace it.
Well, see, I have control here. I have control. But I'm trying to get the green button.
Well, you don't have control. Your green button.
One more.
I think my green button is out.
My green button is bigger than your green button.
There it is.
Okay. Is that it, gentlemen?
That's it.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. Okay, being that we don't want to take very much time on these two other items, would the balance of the council want to allow Mr. Kim for more time to be able to discuss items 4 and 5?
No, I think he's had plenty of time in the briefings to discuss his items, and it's just, I feel he's want to keep everybody here late at night. I don't know. What's his purpose?
Okay, do I have a second on that to move on?
Yes.
I have a first from Mr. Moreno. Do I have a second to keep moving on? Or rather, I think that what we need to do is go ahead and approve items 4 and 5 with no further discussion.
Well, I'd like to see if he has a question that is pertinent to what, because usually consent calendars, don't require all this discussion.
That's correct. Just to educate the participants here, the citizens, consent agenda is a routine type agenda and does not usually require very much conversation discussion. So that is the concern of Mr. Moreno, and I understand that you were asking that we move on, Mr. Moreno?
So number 4 is the construction routine agenda. That's the new one. You said routine agenda. Now we have to talking about the money. You want to talking about the money just like a pass through? And that's why we have a trouble in the money budget. We have a minus budget. We have a minus budget in our city.
Okay. Well, first of all, you need to stick to
You guys
the actual
need to
agenda
know
item.
how to deal with-
Mr. Kim, we do need to stick to the agenda item, and the agenda item is an approval
Well, we
for the
know,
Public
you-
Works
you're not to
for a
stick-
notice of
stick to the
completion,
agenda. That's what
and it
I'm
has
saying.
nothing to do with the budget. So the problem is that when we get into the conversation with these, you do have a tendency of going outside of the actual agenda item, which does not allow for the citizens here to focus on the item. So we, as council members, need to focus on the item. So once again, gentlemen, do you want to provide an opportunity to ask the question? Please focus.
Like you educate the citizen, I'm going to educate the citizen too, because the consent agenda has to be in the routine item, not the contract, this one. This
I
is
understand
like
that,
a
Mr.
different
Kim, but
com-
at this time, we do have an agenda that has been approved, and these items are on the agenda, and this is what we have to work with. Therefore, please focus on item number 4. I'm giving you the
Madam Mayor.
opportunity to ask the question.
Madam Mayor, this is a notice of completion for overlay on our street improvement with $1 million, almost $1.9 million coming out of Measure D funds. I'm very curious as to what question Mr. Kim has to ask with regard to this.
Mr. Kim, go ahead and ask your question then, please.
Yes. That one has, I believe, about 14 different areas.
What?
There's a lot of different streets. And notice of completions, and we never had a chance to look it through, and even, at least if we had some picture of the street, each project, that we can see by the view of the picture, we can see what's going on there.
Well, Mr. Kim, this was given to you on Thursday. I'm sure you would have gotten the map and cruised around Calexico to see the streets that were completed. I know I did. I travel one of those streets on a regular basis. It's been completed for a while.
No, I didn't get
And
this on Thursday.
specifically, number 1 and number 2 that I drive by. I've also driven by some of those other numbers. But I'm assuming that our city engineer has done his due diligence and is requesting this notice of completion to occur without further discussion. So I move that we accept it.
Thank you.
I believe that our job is a diligent due diligence job.
But we still don't understand what your question is. What is your question? Please pose the question.
My concern is next time when you have some construction like this, several different areas, we should have at least pictures being included.
Councilman Kim,
Yes.
I respect your concern, and I agree many times. I'll say it out loud that sometimes things want to be pushed under the covers or whatever the saying is real quick, and not intentionally, but it might be on the consent calendar. But at the same time, sir, I am concerned about the time factor here. But let me ask you just this. Your question, did you ask that in the briefing to City Manager Rodriguez, or are you saying that this is just latest, it's news, it just came on?
Which one? The kid just came.
What you're questioning. In other words, your question is very valid, but I feel that it would have been completed or understood if you had asked him in closed session. And I'm trying to get to the bottom. I'm on your side.
Briefing.
The briefing, excuse me. Did you ask that question, sir?
Well, this is open meeting. This is not closed session items.
So-
Okay, this one is a backup document, it's gonna be inside, at the website. If
So-
we don't have pictures, if we have the pictures, people can see it.
All right, I think I understand where you're coming from. So Councilman Kim, as far as your character and belief is, even if it's discussed in closed session, you feel the need to bring it
Briefing.
out in public,
Briefing.
a briefing.
Where public has to know
Okay,
exactly
well,
what happens.
then we're
in
gonna have
backup
this all the
documents.
time.
Well, you know, when I served as a planning commissioner, and Mr. Lalo Lopez can attest that anytime there was a site development or a site variance or whatever, a conditional use permit, we always went out to the site to take a look at it. So if you've got a map here, and you've got the streets that are outlined that are been improved, go out there and look at them.
I'm talking about the backup documents of the publics.
Okay, guys,
I don't understand what you're talking about. Did they complete them or they didn't complete? It's a notice of completion. Mr. Servine, did they complete them? Okay. Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. First by Mr. Moreno, second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. And we're voting to approve item number 4 of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
I'm even afraid to ask on number 5. Okay, should we allow for another question on item number 5, or do I have a motion for its
I
approval?
move that we approve number 5.
Number 5.
Okay, we have a second.
Wait a minute.
No, I want Mr. Kim the time to speak, but try to keep it cogent and brief as
Keep a
possible.
short story, keep a short story long.
Okay, I'm hearing one person that wants to move on, and I'm hearing this person, you, Mr.
I want him to have the right to
Mr. Hodge,
speak.
that you would like to have
I would like to hear
the
Mr. Kim.
opportunity, and here
keep it
is
short.
Mr. Castro now, so I guess you can go ahead and move on, Mr. Kim. You have a question then on the approval of Measure H funding for parks maintenance, and that's item number 5 under the consent agenda.
First of all, what I understanding, there wasn't approved 2-1 at the major HTW recommendations.
Well, first of all, they don't approve, all they do is recommend, council only approves.
Yes, so they didn't approve it, they come to the council
My-
without their
From
recommendations.
my understanding, it was a 2-1, so I believe that passes on a 3, because they're not making an approval.
They don't approve.
They don't approve it, okay.
No,
But
only
we-
council.
now
They
it's
make
up to-
recommendations to the city
Council-
council. You
council.
can consider those, you can approve those, you can disapprove those, so
Okay. The second question is, the maintenance of the park is the city responsible. It's not why we have to spend money, major H money for the major H is built for the safety, security, and the safety-related regulational. Why we have to spend money for the maintenance of the park. I understand I'm the one who's supporting the maintenance of the park. We supposed to find the other source of the money to fix the park, not the major H money. Major H is supposed to be, the major H money is supposed to be reserved for the security matters.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kim, but you're incorrect. Measure H is money that was generated for general fund purposes. Is that correct?
yes, it's general fund.
It's general
not
fund purposes,
restricted.
sir, and it's not specifically for what you just said now. It is general fund purposes. So I just want to make sure we clarify that.
Well, actually, the community been sold as a safety.
That's very different than what the law indicates, Mr. Kim.
So now we're going to have a party from the major H fund then.
No, what we're doing is money has already been set aside for public safety, a great
I don't
portion of
think-
that money. The public safety has gotten their due, and they can give you their reasons, or there's examples of what's given them. Now it's time for recreation, and some of these other, and these facilities that our parks are in, to quote Mr. Hodge, deplorable condition.
Well, I'm supporting the maintenance of the park, but for me, bothers me, we pull out the money from the safety money, and also at the same time, we're throwing the money, consulting, and lots of city employees' job is to be sent to the consultant. So we have to fix those.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kim. The Measure H committee is a very hardworking committee, and I do believe that the hard work that the Measure H committee has placed is with the concerns of the community in general, and they are not there to throw parties at you, as you are claiming. I think we need to give some respect to our hardworking committees.
Well, they didn't approve it, they didn't recommend it.
What is it you would like to do, Mr. Kim?
Well, I like to find out another source to fix the my park. I'm
There
not
is no other
against to
source,
fix the
Mr.
park.
Kim. The city of Calexico has no money. That's why we are using Measure H, sir. And there is a panel, you also picked a certain person on that panel, that are making fine decisions for the city of Calexico. And I believe we
didn't
need to allow
recommend it.
them to make those recommendations.
They
So
didn't have a
your question then, sir, on the approval of Measure H, you're indicating, you're not making a question, you're making a statement. You're saying that you would like for the Measure H to find money somewhere else, right? Is that what you're saying?
If I may, Measure H is the oversight committee that sees that this money is spent the way it is supposed to be spent. They make recommendations to us. They've done their due diligence.
They didn't approve it. They didn't recommend it.
Well, it's on our,
No,
it's on our packet that says
2 to
Measure
1.
H.
They didn't.
I'm sorry, what was it?
2 to 1.
That's
They didn't-
majority.
No. The governmental areas has
Okay,
been
gentlemen, may we please have a
majority
legal opinion? 2 to 1, Ms. Lyons, was that a legal decision?
I don't
Or
have their
recommendation.
rules in front of me because I didn't know this question was going to come up.
I
But
apologize.
typically, if your quorum is 3, if you're a city council, it's different. You need 3 votes to approve a resolution, a contract, et cetera. Typically, commissions don't have that same kind of rule because they're not approving resolutions, they're not approving contracts for money. So
As long as they have a quorum.
the ordinary rule would be 2 would be okay unless
you
there's
give me a-
something
can
in their
you give us
bylaws.
a
But I
written?
said I don't have the bylaws in front of me tonight.
Can you give us a written? Regarding about the quorum, the majority vote? And we are government agencies, we have supposed, all the commissioners has to be follow the same rules as council, the majority vote, 3 votes.
And I agree with you. Would you like to go on the record for not supporting park maintenance?
I'm supporting park maintenance,
Well,
but
then let's get
not by
vote-
the
let's
major
vote
H
this
money.
in. Let's vote this in.
There is no money anywhere else, Mr. Kim. I don't know where you feel that we're supposed to find other
Don't throw the
money.
money for the consultant.
Well, that is not here.
There's no
Right?
consultants.
That's not part of the action.
That's what I'm saying.
The action is to allow,
Okay.
to approve this recommended motion.
Circumstance, let the, borrow the money from the major H money. Borrow the money, not to pull out the money.
Call
We
for the
can-
question, Madam Mayor. I want to approve this item.
Yes, sir. May I have a second?
I will second that, Madam Mayor.
Please vote.
So
Are you sure that's your vote, Mr. Kim?
that would be, actually, he called for the question, so that vote would be to close discussion. Now you go ahead and take a vote on the item.
Okay.
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 Okay, Mr. Moreno, did you want to make a motion?
I move that we approve this Measure H recommendation for park maintenance.
Second.
First by Mr. Moreno, second by Mr. Hodge.
There you go.
Okay, motion passes 4-1. Okay, moving on now to, we finished on both business items. Number 7 was completed, number 8 was removed, so now we're down to informational items. Item number 9, the business license delinquent list for the month of April 2013. I just need to see if someone just say so acknowledged on item number 9.
So acknowledged on item number 9, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item number 10, departmental overtime justification report for April of 2013. Do I have acknowledgement on that?
I acknowledge that.
Okay, item number 11 is a 2012-2013 monthly financial report as of March 31st, 2013. Do I have any acknowledgement on that?
Acknowledged.
I acknowledge,
So
second
we-
that acknowledge.
Even we cannot ask neither.
If you want to ask
Wow.
any questions, of course you can, Mr. Kim. I was
Okay, so
waiting
we're
for you
now-
to say
No,
something, Mr.
no,
Kim.
Uh,
you never,
item
you
number
never give
11.
me a chance. Just acknowledge it, pass. Acknowledge it, pass.
Well, first of all, Mr. Kim, I don't read your mind, so if you have a question, you need to tell me you have a question. And if you don't speak up, I'm not going to assume that you do. So I'm sorry about that. Would you like to ask a question on item number 11? Mr. Kim?
I had item 10 and 11, I have questions.
Okay, would the balance of the council allow for questions at this time?
Yes.
on the condition that it's kept short if possible, sir.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and give you 1 minute for item number 10 and 1 minute for item number 11, Mr. Kim. Go ahead with Mr.
Let's go home, okay. Let's go home.
Okay. All right, then you
That's a
sure you don't
joke.
want to have any comments, Mr. Kim?
That's Joe.
I'm
That's
sorry.
comment is
I'm
joke.
sorry if you feel that way, Mr. Kim.
That's joke.
We do wanna move
We're
on.
talking about the money and we just want to go rushing going home. Why are you sitting here?
Mr. Kim, this is a decision of the council complete that we want to move on, and I'm sorry, that is the democratic process, which you
Okay.
also believe in.
Yeah, now we
So at this
understand.
point, since we have no further items, this meeting is adjourned.